officials as well as anyone that is joining us online to the public. We are here today to discuss and to interview a number of candidates that have availed themselves for the Western Cape for the Liquor Governing Board. This is a huge role. We understand that within our province, alcohol is often discussed in terms of crime, in terms of what it could lead to. But we are here today to interview potential candidates that have availed themselves, and I am greatly thankful to them for availing themselves for public office. Members, I will ask you to kindly introduce yourself for the record. Thereafter, in terms of Rule 72, I will close the meeting for a period of 13 minutes in order for us to conduct basic housekeeping before we will commence with the first interview at 8:15. But good morning to everyone, and I trust that you are well on this Friday.
Good morning, Chairperson Ricardo Mackenzie.
Morning.
Good morning, Deirdre Bartman.
Now I must put my one on as well. Everyone's video is on.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair and members. Mesuli Kama.
Good morning. Members, I have received an apology from member Ferlin Christians, as well as one of the nominees who has since withdrawn her nomination. So we have a number of 8 candidates that we are interviewing today. Mr. Wasim Matthews and Mr. Siraj Hassam, in terms of Standing Rule 72, the meeting will now be closed and we will promptly commence at 8:15. Good morning, members. Good morning, WCPP officials. I am Regan Allen, and I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee, Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport. With me is Mr. Wasim Matthews, our procedural officer, together with IT support here today. We also have Senior Procedural Officer, Mr. Ben Daza, in our meeting. As indicated in our agenda, we are interviewing nominees for the governing board of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. I do want to first and foremost thank all the candidates that have availed themselves to serve on the governing body, which is on the governing board, because it's such a key role in ensuring that the work of the Western Cape Liquor Authority continues, that we see continued success and change in that arena. So on that note, I would want members to kindly, on that note, let me first state that we have received an apology from member Christians. He is not here today, but he has tendered his apology. What I will now do at this juncture is the rules of engagement has become very conventional in the last 2 years, where we have been able to engage via MS Teams and in person. We have with us the first candidate today, and let me welcome Ms. Abdul. If I got the pronunciation incorrect, you must please forgive me. It's a Friday morning, but we are creating an atmosphere where we want to keep it as relaxed as possible. So please feel welcomed. I will give a rundown of who is in the meeting, but members will also be asking specific questions to you as a candidate, and then they will put on their video as well. But let me just hear your voice first, ma'am, if I can hear your voice.
Good morning, Honourable Alan, and other members of the panel. Thank you for the opportunity to serve on the Liquor Authority. Thanks.
Thank you so much. You are audible. Your video is working. We have with us Advocate Deirdre Bartman. We have Honourable Member Masuli Kama, as well as Honourable Member Ricardo Mackenzie. So we are about to kickstart. It's going to be a 20-minute interview as indicated in the email correspondence. We will ask a set of questions. You will have 2 minutes to answer a particular question. And before we kickstart the questions, we will afford you any opening remarks that you would like to make at this time, so that we can get into it. Thereafter, I'll ask the first question and we will get into it. But we want to make sure that you are comfortable, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. So I think my my desire really to serve on in this forum is really driven from my need to change the landscape or influence this whole corporate governance landscape. And you know, in my mind, good corporate governance really drives and influences and has an impact on our future. So in my mind, by really participating in the authority or serving on the board, I would really be in a position to hold management accountable, to drive transparency, to drive integrity of financial and operational information that is reported up the line. And that in itself will have an impact on society, but looking at society broadly in terms of the well-being of society, but also in terms of growing the economy of the Western Cape. So I'm really very passionate about governance and the role that it can play on driving sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you have touched on the very first question already to a certain extent, but I am going to forward you more time, should you wish, on telling us more about why you have applied for the position. If there's any further sentiments that you would want to express in that regard?
Thanks. So just to indicate to the panel that I stopped being formally employed about 2 years ago, I think. And that's because I really felt that I could make a contribution. So rather than sitting on the outskirts and criticizing a lack of progress, development, and accountability, I really felt that I could use my skills more effectively by contributing and serving on these boards. So it's really around making a contribution and driving change from within, because of the large impact and the big impact that an organization like the Liquor Authority can have on our society in the Western Cape and communities that I'm exposed to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now have Honorable Bartman.
Thank you so much and welcome. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you would contribute to the board?
Thank you, Honorable Bartman. Look, financial sustainability in my mind is a big challenge, in that there are budget constraints at a national as well as at a provincial level. Looking at financial sustainability, some of the contributing factors or challenges there I have seen just by looking at your annual report would be that there's a poor debt recovery. So when penalties, fines, etc. are levied, there is I can see that the debts are not properly being recovered. In this regard, I have seen that the board is considering reviewing its pricing model, so implementing a differential type of pricing model. I've seen that there's an increase in the capacity, number of staff employed to enforce legislation, to conduct inspection. Looking at another challenge, it would be compliance. Based on my understanding, the Liquor Authority enforces its regulations across almost three spheres, or operates in almost 3 spheres of government. So I think a major challenge would be around interpretation and application across those 3 spheres of government. What I have noticed is a drive to create awareness and around regulation, around the role of public, encouraging public participation, and as well as, I think, compliance to all the other pieces of legislation. And then an inability to deliver in terms of the mandate. There are a number of capacity constraints, perhaps inefficient processes, manual processes, and then also outdated technology based on what I've read. Looking at the kind of efficiencies or interventions that the board has implemented, I've noted that they've increased, for example.
Ms. Abdul.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Is that enough?
You have exceeded your time in that regard. I have allowed for extra few seconds, but we will try to strictly stick within the 2 minutes.
Okay.
I will now allow for member Ricardo Mackenzie.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Ms. Abdul. In your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board? Thank you.
Thank you. So the kind of value that I could bring to the board, I think cuts across my operational experience as well as my experience serving on oversight bodies. So on the part of understanding the governance landscape, I do serve on some other committees within Western Cape government, as well as at a national level. And I think that does give me, my lens is quite broad in terms of how I would assess and look at any matter for consideration. I've been an executive manager, and so I do understand the kind of difficulties that managers have to operate under. And so I could almost balance sometimes the very idealistic expectations of a governing board with that of management in terms of what it is able to do within its limited constraints. So I understand the oversight responsibility very well. I am passionate about governance. I have spoken to that early on. I have a very, I'm comfortable to speak my mind respectfully and to challenge the status quo and to think creatively. So, for example, I've looked at the kind of challenges, and one of the risks I haven't identified is fraud and corruption. So I can look at an entity analytically, critically, but very importantly, because I've been on the ground, I'm also able to identify interventions to actually improve effectiveness and improve efficiency in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was perfectly within 2 minutes. The last question before, if there's any open question, will be Member Masuli Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Ms. Abdul for the responses provided so far. My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibility of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority governing board? Thank you.
Thank you. What I would regard as a main responsibility would really be to be driving management, holding management accountable to achieve the vision of the authority. So it's around driving and using our resources that we have in the organization effectively to achieve sustainability. And I think to reduce the impact and the reliance on the Western Cape government. Secondly, to really be driving awareness around the impact of the harmful use of alcohol on society, creating that public awareness, so holding management accountable to comply with legislation and to be that example of a liquor authority in the broader South Africa. So it's really around holding management accountable, but also about introducing better, more efficient ways of doing things, and also being a link between our executive authority and that of management, taking management's concerns, management's challenges to the executive authority and looking at how best to resolve their challenges and address them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abdul. Members, is there any follow-up question? I will allow for one member to ask if there's any further question. Are we covered? Member Mackenzie.
sorry, Chairperson, can you hear me now? You raised a very important matter about driving the impact and dangers of alcohol in the broader society. How, as a board member, would you do that?
Thank you, Honourable Member Mackenzie. I think as a board member, first and foremost, to be an example and an ambassador of the liquor of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. So it starts by example and by doing the right thing, functioning as a responsible citizen and upholding the values of the Liquor Authority. And then secondly, around ensuring that management's interventions, management's strategies around reducing the harmful impact of alcohol actually address the key root causes of the behavior. Then ensuring that management have identified key performance indicators that we as a board can monitor on a frequent basis. Going beyond that, even looking at key risk indicators. What are the kind of indicators that management's interventions and the action plans are not changing and reducing the harmful impact of alcohol in society? So it's oversight, but it's also, for me, living that example of respecting alcohol and living the values of the authority. Thank you, Honourable McKenzie.
Ms. Abdul, thank you so much for availing yourself so early on a Friday morning. As a committee, and as I've indicated earlier on, we highly appreciate your attendance here today and for answering the questions. We will be interviewing a number of candidates today and then in due course enter into correspondence with those candidates. But thank you so much for being here. Is there any question from your side?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May you have an amazing Friday and rest of the weekend. But once again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Members, thank you so much. First candidate has been interviewed. I trust that members have made sufficient notes in terms of the scoring for that particular candidate. We will enter into our second candidate and we will promptly commence. Wasim, would we be ready?
Chairperson, the person, I just gave him a call now, he's logging in.
Thank you so much. Mr. Undwandwa, are you with us today, sir? If you can, I can see your video. Can I hear your voice?
We are together.
No, thank you so much. Your video is working and I can hear that you are clearly audible. My name is Regan Allen. I'm the chairperson for the Standing Committee on Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport. You would be fully aware why you are here. You have put your hand up. You have been nominated to serve as a member of the governing board of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. With me is Wasim Matthews, our procedural officer, but we also have a multi-party committee. We have Advocate Deirdre Bartman. We have member Masuli Kama. We have member Ricardo Mackenzie with us today as well. Just for process, we will ask you a set of questions. You have strictly 2 minutes to answer a particular question. Once that member has identified him or herself, they will put on their video and ask you their question. At the end, should there be any follow-up question or anything that you have said and a member is needing clarity, they will ask that question at the end. Are you comfortable?
I'm comfortable with that, honorable member. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. In terms of a very clear guideline is that once you reach 1 minute and 50 seconds, I will then put up my hand and it will look like this.
Okay.
So that you know you should be wrapping up that last sentence. Are you covered?
I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have seen how we are able to engage via technology, but once again, thank you so much for availing yourself. Like I've indicated, I'm Regan Allen, and I would afford you any opening remarks.
Well, thank you, honorable member. I think I'm very grateful that, I'm here now being interviewed. And yeah, I hope I can contribute, right? Because I think it's very important for one to be able to give back. I've been a chartered accountant since 2008. I've always been passionate about the public sector. So I've been with the Auditor General for a long time. I worked in Victoria. Then I went to the Eastern Cape. I worked there. Then since 2014, I've been in Cape Town, working there as well. And I've also been working as a professional and business coach with my MPhil in management coaching. So I'd really like to give back and plow those skills back into, what I consider my country. And as a citizen, I think I'm a shareholder. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've already kickstarted the first question in answering it. So tell the committee, tell the residents of the Western Cape, why are you applying, sir?
Well, there are many reasons. I think, as I've mentioned before, just now, to say, okay, can you still hear me?
Clearly, sir. Should I not
Okay.
be able to hear you or any member, they will put up their hand as well.
No, that's wonderful. So I think, number one, when I've looked at the composition of the board, right, I see that there's a lot of skills around legal, there's skills and partnership with the city of Cape Town. And, I think it's very important to have a balanced board. So I carry a lot of experience with governance within the public sector. I've got financial experience. So I think that would add very well to the board as it stands now. I think also my experience as someone who's in leadership and serving on one or two other boards would also help. I think it would be good. But I think the most important one that I've mentioned now is the fact that, I want to contribute. I do go to schools and I talk there to scholars. I work with some NGOs. And really, it would be nice to also be involved in the body that sets the structure, especially around, alcohol and the link to other services that the country provides, especially safety. So I think just from those three, I think it'd be wonderful to contribute and to give back, but I also think I have the skills and the experience to contribute positively. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I now see Member Deirdre Bartman.
Thank you and good morning. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you would contribute to the board? Thank you.
Thank you so much, member, honorable member. I think, I've read through the annual report, I've read through your strategic plan. And I think one of the things from an accounting perspective is really around sustainability and the finance model, right? I think that might be a challenge because I looked at the enforcement side, the licensing and the inspections that need to be done. I think capacitation is probably going to be a big thing there and balancing that because you've got, an institution that wants to be self-sustaining, but at the same time, its financial model says that whatever it collects, it must give back to the fiscus. So I think one of the opportunities and perhaps possible challenges is managing the relationships to make sure that it gets what it needs from the funds that are available in government because, COVID has been hard. Government is stretched far and thin as far as funding is concerned. So I think that's one. Number two, getting the skills and capacity that they need in terms of having to do its job. I think that's also a very important one. But also, the challenge about alcohol itself, right? South Africa, I think, is one of the top alcohol consuming countries in the world. And when we locked down liquor, we saw the impact that, in the reduction in terms of hospital trauma, accidents, all those things. And there's a report that says 50% of murders are linked to alcohol. So I think that's a big challenge. It's a very big challenge. And I think the strategy that I've seen in terms of, public participation, going and educating people, making sure there's a responsible, consumption, sale, and, and manufacturing of alcohol. It's a challenge because on one side, people want the service. On the other side, people also make a living from this and the economy is being affected. So when there was lockdown, people still managed to find ways to buy the alcohol. So I think balancing all those things is probably going to be a big challenge. I haven't answered the second one, I've run out of time, but I think the finances and efficiencies are things that we'll focus on in the board to make sure that we use technology, we use people that we have, and we make the most out of each rand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Ndwandwe, in your view, what experience would you be bringing to the board, this particular board?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. As I said before, I think I anticipated this question. When I look at the board, the balance is very important. So when the Liquor Authority, it's basically, predominantly three things, right? It's a social aspect of things. So I think you've got someone on the board there who's got a background in, in social development, NGOs. The other part of it is around the legal structure and the mandate and making sure that things fit in terms of legally. I think you've got people there. And then the third one is the finances and making sure that things and the strategic management and business management, which I think I would add to. You've got, I think the chairperson is currently fulfilling that role, but I think as part of succession planning, I would hopefully come in and add to that as well. As a coach, I work with leaders who are transitioning to new positions. I do strategic facilitation. I do team cohesion. So I do all those things. So I think it would also be very good for management in terms of the support that we would lend as a board if I was there to also give that guidance and support to them to fulfill their role, but also the understanding in the differentiation of the different roles. So the board sticks to its role as a strategic guidance and sustainability structure, as well as the governance, and then management seeing to implementing the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, Mr. Ndwandwe. My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority governing board?
I think number one, the governance, right? Because you see, when you're running an institution or organization, you have people who are there, as the oversight. That's you and the executive, the executive authority, which would be the department. And then you've got the board that is there for strategic direction, and then you've got management that implement that and run day-to-day, operations. So I think the board sits in the middle of that. Therefore, a board plays a very important role in helping the organization to have those key strategic partnerships and the relationships. And that's not just looking upwards, but in terms of, the oversight, but also on the side. And, when you look at the city of Cape Town, which is an important partner, you look at other, whether it's social development, et cetera, et cetera. So the board plays an important governance role to make sure that there's oversight, to working with internal, external audit, so that when people make decisions and they do their jobs, oversight, decision-making around management, the information they use is reliable. When the users and the public read the information and the reports, they can also have a sense of confidence that it's reliable information that they are reading. Giving strategic direction to make sure that the organization is sustainable and that it goes into the future, right? So the world is changing very quickly. COVID has shown us that. We are here having this conversation now via technology, and therefore helping the organization, the authority, move into the future, right? From a sustainability perspective, whether it's the funding, whether it's the technology, whether it's making sure that it fulfills its mandate, or whether it's just making sure that it has the skills that it needs. I think the board plays a very critical role, especially around making sure that the relationships function very well and people play their role as they're supposed to, and really holding people accountable for those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to double check with members. Is there any further question that any member would have? I'll only take the first hand. I see no hand. Let me see. Do you think the Western Cape Liquor Authority can actually become self-sustainable?
Well, looking at the financial statements, I mean, during lockdown, you know, the financial statements don't look so bad. You'd need to probably come up with a model that would suit this in, you know, this organization, because it's quite unique, right? It's very unique, because on one hand, you want to impose licenses and fines and renewal fees and all those things, which if you don't do properly can affect the economy and people's livelihoods, and you want the economy to go up. At the same time, you want to build for the future, but you've got a dependence on how much appropriation you get every year, which can limit you if you're not able to communicate your needs properly. So I think with the right skills and the right relationships, it can definitely be done. And whether it can be done or not, I think it must be done. I mean, if you want to address the root issues that face society, you know, and there's ample evidence and research that shows that if you take care of the alcohol issues, then your murder will go down, your road fatalities will go down, and those things, they affect your road accident fund, they affect your health services, they affect your social development, they affect the amount of trauma that people have in families, childhood, you know, it affects your justice system and the clogging. You know, it has to work, and I definitely think that it can be self-sustaining, you know, if everyone can work together and you've got people who can communicate this message well, and you can come up with a model that really works and, you know, balances all these things that need to be balanced, because the Liquor Authority doesn't work in a vacuum. It's part of, you know, it's part of the Western Cape safety plan, for example, and part of the overall strategy. So it can and it will, and I think everyone, starting from the Premier to everyone, they see the importance of the authority.
Sir, thank you so much for availing yourself on a Friday morning, all before 9 o'clock. It is highly appreciated. Is there any question that you have for us?
No, none, except maybe to say, well, when can one expect to get feedback?
We will be interviewing a number of candidates today. Thereafter, we will deliberate, but it should be in due course, sir.
All right, thank you.
Please have a good Friday. Stay safe and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you to the honorable members as well. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. I see your hand.
Yes, Chair, sorry, candidate is in the lobby a bit earlier than expected, but can I admit him?
Yes, members, I just want to double check in terms of the flow, everything is going well your side? Thank you so much. We will then promptly proceed. Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Hello.
Good morning, Mr. Arifdin. Am I able to hear your voice, and if you are able to switch on your camera?
It is on. Let me just see. Yes, it is. What is going on here? It's on.
There we go.
Okay.
I was able to see you.
Okay.
I'm able to see you now, sir. I just wanted to double check that I can hear you, but that I can also see you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Honorable.
Thank you so much. Mr. Arifdin, thank you so much for availing yourself. My name is Regan Allen. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport. We are a multi-party committee, and you have availed yourself to serve as a member of the Western Cape Liquor Authority's governing board On that note, we do want to say thank you so much. We are interviewing a number of candidates today, and you are one of them. So with me is Advocate Deirdre Bartman, Member Ricardo McKenzie, as well as Member Masuli Kama. You have already engaged Wasim Matthews, who is our procedural officer.
Yes.
Are you comfortable, sir?
I'm comfortable, a bit nervous, but fine.
Nothing to be nervous about. Members will be switching on the camera so that you are also able to see them, but we want to make this as relaxed and free and open as possible. So once again, thank you for being here. I will afford you any opening remarks that you would want to make.
For now, no, not at this point in time.
No, perfect. On that note, we will commence. But before that, I will give a brief overview of how it will happen. We will ask a set of questions. You have 2 minutes to answer a particular question. I will keep a timer my side. And if you reach 1 minute and 50 seconds, I will do this. I will raise my hand, 1 minute and 50 seconds, and you'll be able to conclude your sentence. At the end of the questions from members, should there be any further question that any member would want to ask, I will note the first hand that I receive. Is that in order, sir?
That's in order, sir.
It's going to be relaxed. We are going to have a conversation. But once again, thank you so much for availing yourself.
Thank you.
So my first question is why? Why are you applying to be a member of this board, sir?
The reason is look, I'm retired, and I thought, well, if I can get into something that I keep me busy with, and because I'm a hardworking person, so I don't feel like sitting at home and doing things, you know, which can occupy my mind or anything like that whatsoever.
Thank you so much. I now see member Deirdre Bartman.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
My question to you today is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you would contribute to the board? Thank you.
Well, what they do is they relate the retail sales and micro manufacturers of liquor in the Western Cape. And what I would like to contribute is I will be very helpful in that matter.
Thank you so much. We are doing extremely well for time, Mr. Rivdin. You have 2 minutes if you should wish to use it.
Okay.
We will now go to member Ricardo McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Arifdin, for your time this morning. In your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board? Thank you.
My expertise is, well, I've been a production planner. I've been planning for many years. So planning is part of my job, and maybe I will be open to any new creative ideas and things that can be implemented to make things better working for the WCLCL.
Thank you so much. We have member Masuli Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
What would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority board?
Pardon me, can you say again?
What would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority governing board?
Look, have meetings and discuss strategic plans on how we can accommodate whatever the public outside, the people need, and how to accommodate them. There's many ways that we can do and put some ideas on the table will be a great, what do you call it, a great to the board as well. I can't say the word, I can't get to the word now, but it was a great achievement to whatever we want to achieve.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arifdin. Is there any members? Are there any further question that you might have? Any member? Mr. Arifdin, we are covered outside. Okay. Is there any closing remarks from you?
Well, if I get accepted and say I'm very hardworking and I'm very dedicated and honest, if I might get accepted, I would like to maybe put some, if there's possibility or money, some to put aside to give the people on a licensing department better training, look at it that way, or keep the WCLA self-sustainable by increasing maybe on the macro retailers, giving them, increasing their fees, whatever they have to pay to keep the WCLA self-sustainable. That's what I would have, that's what I have in mind.
Thank you so much. Mr. Arifdin, you have availed yourself all before 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. It is highly, highly appreciated. Yes. I trust that you will have a good day and weekend further. Yes, that concludes our interview.
Thank you very, very much.
No problem. Do you have any question for us?
I can't think of anything.
No problem. We will be interviewing a number of candidates today, and yes, thereafter we will deliberate on it, yes, and then communication will be entered into with all applicants.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You keep well.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
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 Members, we are doing well for time. Our procedural officer will attempt to get our candidate number 4.
Chairperson, the candidate is logging in right now.
Baie dankie. Mr. Gwala, can you hear me, sir? I can see you. I just want to do a quick test in terms of your video and audio.
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you.
I see you clearly, sir. My name is Regan Allen. I'm the chairperson for the Standing Committee on Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport. We are a multi-party committee. With me is Advocate Deirdre Bartman, together with member Ricardo McKenzie and member Masuli Kama. You have engaged our procedural officer, Mr. Wasim Matthews. Thank you once again for availing yourself and for being here today to answer our questions in terms of the vacancy that do exist in the Western Cape Liquor Authority's governing board. I just want to double check. You are comfortable your side and we are all set to go.
Can I take a piece of paper and a pen? And may I also say that I'm using my cell phone. So in case there is a call coming through, I will quickly, cut it off and then we can continue. But can I
Thank you so much. By all means, sir. I will quickly also then let you know how the process will unfold.
Okay. Yes, I am now comfortable.
And for our committee, Mr. Gwala, that is the most important thing. We would want all applicants and nominees to be comfortable. We would want to have a conversation. This is a board that would do so much and that has done so much in terms of their work and their mandate. So thank you so much once again for being here. We will ask you a set of questions. You will have 2 minutes to answer a particular question.
Okay.
And at the end, if any member has any further question, I will allow for 1 additional question should there be a need for that. I will put on my timer my side. So once you reach 1 minute and 50 seconds, this will happen. And my hand will be raised, meaning that you have 10 seconds to conclude your sentence.
Okay.
Are you covered?
Yes, I am covered. Thanks.
Do you have any opening remarks that you would want to make?
Is it something that to be assessed on, or just
Any opening remarks? It's totally open to you, sir.
okay? No, other than to say thank you very much for affording me this opportunity to come and present my case. I am looking forward to answering whatever questions that you may have for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll ask the first question. Why, Mr. Gwala? Why have you applied to be a member of the board?
Okay. This entity is a regulatory body in the liquor authority. I am experienced in the liquor, in the regulatory environment, having worked for CIRA, having worked for the Department of Labor and the Civil Aviation Authority as well. So this is going to sharpen my skills at a different level this time around, which is at a board level, where I'll be able to make a contribution to the province via serving on the board. Over and above that, you know, the way liquor is being abused out there, it would be good to be given an opportunity, or to have an opportunity to sort of contribute in making sure that all the harms that are associated with alcohol, I can contribute in making sure that improve the reduction thereof of the alcohol abuse, for an example. I must say that I've also applied previously in the past in the KZN Liquor Authority, and as I prepared myself for those interviews, but not at a board level, but as at executive level, I got so interested in what the liquor authorities do. Much as that one was in KZN, this one is here in the Western Cape. It would be interesting to contribute in that regard. And then again, but over and above that, it will also improve my my functioning, in that I'll now be exposed at a board level. I've mentioned in my CV that I've also functioned as a deputy chairperson of the International Air Services Council, which was approving international air licensing for airlines. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gwala. I now see Member Deirdre Bartman.
Thank you and good morning. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you would contribute to the board? Thank you.
Okay. Having looked at obviously what I'll be responding to will be based from the external point of view, not internal, because I'm not with the board currently. Firstly, I understand that the board is currently in the previous financial year, did the initiative to improve the initiatives that are aimed at reducing the harms that alcohol bring. So I'm not sure whether this position is to fill in the vacancies or it is a new board altogether. But if it is a new board altogether, then I would make sure that those initiatives go on, they continue, because there is so much harm that the alcohol, especially the abuse of it, is doing in the society at large. So those initiatives cannot be overlooked, and I would make sure that they continue. And I would also try and introduce other initiatives as well, so as to capacitate the authority to be efficient and more effective in making sure that the industry is regulated better. Things like the technological advances, we need to look at those as well and keep up. If you look at COVID, it got everyone unprepared, and it forced everyone to do things differently. Currently, where I work, we have now new ways of doing inspections. So those new ways of doing inspections, I would explore them in the liquor authority as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gwala. We have Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Gwala, for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. In your view, what experience would you be bringing to the board?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mackenzie. As I touched on earlier on, I worked as a labor inspector. I worked as a civil aviation authority inspector. I worked also as a inspector for the private security industry. And then I also functioned at senior level of management, senior management level at CIRA and in my current position. So those skills, I'll be bringing them in. But importantly, given that this is a board level, I also was a deputy chairperson of the International Air Service Council, which is an entity under the Department of Transport. So the skills that I have acquired there will assist a lot in shaping the direction that the authority will be taking during the term of office that, if I'm successful, will be serving with the authority. Currently, I'm also registered with UNISA for an LLP. So that is going to also give me the legal skills that are always crucial when it comes to a regulatory environment. So again, the understanding between the board, or the separation of powers between the board and the executive, that is very well understood from my point of view. So that is what I'll also be bringing in insofar as if my application is successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gwala. We now have Member Masuli Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, Mr. Gwala. My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority Governing Board?
Okay, the first thing would be to make sure that it gives proper direction to the executive, so that the executive can carry out all the duties that they are supposed to carry out. Even the powers that may have been delegated to the Chief Executive Officer, they must be executed correctly. And again, I want to mention the issue of the separation of powers. If the powers are not so separated, then the executive will clash with the board. So as long as everyone knows where they function, then there will always be clarity on each one's role. And then the executive will then be able to carry out its mandate. And when it comes to reporting, there will be a good report that will come of the activities of the authority throughout the year. Thank you, Mr. Kama.
Thank you, Mr. Gwala. We are doing well for time, so I will check with members. Is there any question that any member would want to ask? I see Member Kama.
No, thanks, Chair. I just want to follow up. I think on the challenges, Mr. Gwala mentioned the issue of the harms that comes with alcohol, and even mentioned that you would, if appointed, would continue with the programs that are there already now. But what I want to understand from Mr. Gwala is that does he think, is there any link in addressing the harms? Is there any link or need to consider what others might term as a economic contribution of the industry itself? And how would you balance addressing the harms and also safeguarding what might be a economic contribution of the liquor industry? Thanks.
Mr. Kama, I think it goes without saying that alcohol does have an economic value, or the industry does have a big economic value. So it cannot be that we want to scrap everything, no. But the first thing would be to make sure that looking at the mandate of the liquor authority, we issue out licenses after having gone through everything else that needs to be done. Secondly, the education that needs to happen in the communities about the dangers. It can take various forms. It could be billboards, it could be where liquor is consumed, it could be SMSs, etc., random SMSs telling people the harms that come with, especially the abuse of alcohol. So there is that economic contribution that the industry is making to the economy, and it has to be preserved. Now, those who consume alcohol must know that there are harms if you abuse alcohol. You can consume it as long as you are responsible in consuming it. Don't drink and drive, those kind of messages. Don't overdrink, don't drink and walk. In case that end, they used to say, so which means drink next to your home, so that when you are drunk or when you've consumed alcohol, you quickly get home. So those kind of messages need to be out there, while we also do not compromise the economic contribution that the industry is giving to the economy. Thanks, Mr. Kama.
Thank you, Mr. Gwala. That brings us to the end of your interview. And I would like to clarify, in terms of the current composition of the board, there is one vacancy. However, we are looking to fill that vacancy. And obviously, once the new board is, once this current board's term comes to an end, there will be further adverts in that regard as well. But thank you for availing yourself. I wish you all of the best. And I trust that we as a committee will continue to interview candidates today. Thereafter, we will deliberate and communication will be entered with all nominees in due course.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You don't have any further question for us, perhaps?
No, I do not have any further, but it would be to re-emphasize that I am so interested in this industry. It's a dynamic industry, which, you know, there's so much contribution economically, yet there's so much harm. So striking a balance in those two would sharpen one's skills in dealing with it. So I really appreciate it. It's a very interesting.
We as a committee take encouragement, and we have a growing hope that there's many people in our country that is willing to serve, that is wanting to be active. So we highly, highly appreciate it, sir.
Thank you so much.
And on a Friday, you availed yourself. So thank you. Please have a good weekend.
I will do. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekends too.
Same to you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Members, we are doing extremely well for time in terms of our schedule. I wanted to take it to the members before I make a decision, in that our break was supposed to be at 9:55 until 10:05 for a quick comfort break. And I do know that the next person is due to be here at 10:05. I wanted to ask members, should we attempt to call that particular candidate in and take our break after that? Or what will members feel comfortable with? I do know in the times and in the heads of a particular nominee, he or she might feel that they have prepped for a certain time. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee. Any comment?
Chairperson.
Member Bartman.
Oh, sorry,
Again.
I'm Bartman, go first.
Thank you, Chair. I see my colleagues are giving me privileges because I'm a bit of a rose among the thorns. I actually want to say that if a particular candidate is only coming in at a certain time because we asked them to come during that time, that we don't make them anxious by all of a sudden them being here half an hour beforehand, for example. Let us take the break and let's maybe log back on or start again 5 minutes before that person is due, because I don't want someone to all of a sudden feel that they're confused as to why they're now half an hour earlier. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Member Mackenzie.
Thank you. I concur with that assessment. Sometimes people do prepare and they perhaps have another interview somewhere else. If they are 10 or 15 minutes earlier, it will be helpful. But I do think one shouldn't put extra anxiety of them. But if they are earlier, and also on the administration as well, so for Wasim now to start phoning 10 people to say come early is also a bit unfair on him as well, taking into account it's Friday and he obviously need to go to mosque as well. So one is to be mindful of those things. Thanks.
No, I fully agree. Wasim, are you happy with that? We will then take the break and we will see to get going once it's 10:05. Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Chairperson, there is one interview that can take place now because it's supposed to be from 9:35. So that candidate is ready. It was just the candidate after the proposed tea time. So after this candidate, then from what I take, we're actually going to take the break right up until the scheduled tea time. And then the next candidate will start at 10:05. Do I get that correct?
Just to double check, so there's a candidate that will come in now.
Yeah, the one that is supposed to be from 9:35, he is actually ready.
Okay.
Because I've touched base with him towards the end of the previous, at the start of the previous interview. So the next candidate is ready. But when this candidate is done, the candidate after that is scheduled for after tea.
Okay,
so that was the issue. So you're just having an extended break then. That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
To not mess up the schedule.
So we are 15 minutes ahead, I would say, in my estimation. Then the next person can be allowed in, Wasim. Thank you so much for that.
Give me a minute to give them the cue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. We will be seeing Mr. Low.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Mr. Low, I see I'm speaking to Catherine, but I know it's definitely you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Allen, thank you. Sorry about that, but my wife used Microsoft Teams last time when she had to communicate with her officer, and unfortunately, you know, I didn't quite. I wasn't aware that she's still the nominated person. So.
No problem at all. I made that comment because I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. We have seen you before. And in terms of the process moving forward today, the multi-party committee has a slightly different composition to it. I am delighted to introduce Advocate Deirdre Baartman, as well as member Ricardo McKenzie. They are two of our new permanent members on the committee, extremely capable. So, Mr. Lowe, I'm happy that they are with us today, as well as Mr. Masuli Kama, who you have engaged before as well. Mr. Lowe, you know the process. In terms of the questions, it's slightly different today in that different members will be asking questions. I will kickstart the first question. And once you answer, you have 2 minutes to reply and answer on a particular question. Once my timer says it's 1 minute and 50 seconds, then this will happen. My hand will go up, meaning that you are allowed to end the sentence. And
thank you, Mr. Reagan. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. So for formalities and to make it even more official, Mr. Lowe, please feel relaxed. I'm Regan Allen, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport. I have indicated the members that are with me. You have engaged our procedural officer, Mr. Wasim Matthews, as well. So I will kickstart and first say, is there any opening remarks that you would like to make?
Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think just to put myself in perspective, I would like just to give a very brief background on who I am, what experience I have, what I actually brought to the board of the authority, and what I still am able to bring.
Mr. Lowe, then that will tie into my first question. Why are you applying against her?
Right. Chair, in serving at the board for the period 2018 and 2021, that specific board were challenged with quite a number of fruitless and wasteful expenditures, which we had to deal with. And during that 3-year tenure, the board succeeded in installing very sound corporate governance principles and providing strategic guidance and leadership, as well as very, very effective oversight, with the result that the audit for 2020 was an absolute unqualified audit. Certain initiatives, in fact, were started during that 3-year term, such as the differentiated pricing model, you know, the organizational design project, and so forth. And it was basically, those projects were very much in the starting phases. And the fact that I reapplied for a board membership, and the fact that I actually did not qualify was a bit of a disappointment to me, because I really wanted to provide input to continue with those projects, in fact to further beneficiate the authorities in terms of his administration and specifically its corporate governance. So that's the reason why I reapplied. My experience that I gained through my professional career focused specifically on corporate governance, and in the process I also achieved a substantial business experience, and that was the reason. Those qualities, in fact, helped me, or really sort of assisted me in my application as a member of the board. I still have those capacities, and I feel that I can still provide the necessary guidance and input. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lowe. I now see Member Baartman.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good morning. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you would contribute to the board? Thank you.
Councillor Bartman, thank you very much for that question. In terms of the mandate that the current Act gives the authority, the mandate specifically focuses on the regulation of the industry and specifically the production, distribution, and the sale of liquor, as well as microbreweries. Now, that is still the key challenge. You know, in view of the fact that we have substantial unlicensed operation in our communities, that is still the key challenge for the authority then to get those unlicensed ones licensed and properly controlled, so that enforcement and compliance can be applied. Now, to improve on that specific score, one needs to almost like provide sufficient capabilities to deliver. And obviously, if you need to improve your inspectorate as well as your administration, then that needs finance. Now, the other point is, the other challenge is in terms of the white paper, which deals with the alcohol-related harms. There are certain interventions that needs to be implemented, that could be implemented, and the authority can play a major role there. But overall, all these initiatives requires funding, and therefore, underlying to all these challenges, the success in achieving a differentiated pricing model, that still needs the ultimate challenge, because once you've got sufficient funding and you can eliminate the reliance on the fiduciary, the fiscus rather, then one can actually initiate all kinds of innovative methods to address those challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. Lowe. In your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board?
Ms. Mackenzie, thank you for the question. I think in terms of my introduction, I did mention that I've got extensive governance experience. Just to put that in context, at the investment bank, Rand Merchant Bank, I was a senior member of the credit department, and we dealt with mostly listed corporate companies. With regard that, in order to provide a rating similar to the Moody's or the Standard & Poor rating issues, one had to really unpack the business model of the corporate, as well as their corporate governance. So from that perspective, I think I am very well equipped to look after the business side and the governance side of the authority. I'm also a very logic thinking, rational thinking person. And when it comes to the implementation of some of these initiatives contained in the white paper, I think I can actually provide sound input, not necessarily as a specialist in that field, but purely just to balance the rationality of any decision that needs to be taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. We have Member Kama.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Lowe. My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority governing board?
Thank you, Mr. Kama. I think I've touched on some of the main responsibilities. Well, I think the Act is basically the guidance, the guiding paper or document that basically stipulates what needs to happen. And in order to implement the Act effectively, the board needs to play a very, very active role, specifically in terms of the powers that the Act confers on the authority, and powers which the board may use, but also there are certain functions that it has to be looked after, and specifically, you know, the oversight, well, providing strategic guidance, leadership, proper accountability. You know, one can carry on with what the functions are, but the oversight really to make sure that the organization is managed in a responsible manner, that I would say is the key thing. In terms of the organization in general, it's the regulation of the industry. And the regulation would basically entail the handling of applications in such a way that it actually addresses the public interest, and more specifically, the interest of the communities in which a specific applicant operates. The other key, you know, the role of the white paper is something that is still very much unattended to, but to really get involved in addressing the white paper, certain legislative changes needs to take place. And when I was still at the board, there were certain initiatives started by the legal department to address some of these shortcomings. And the idea is that the new legislation should provide provisions which will enable the authority to be more efficient in terms of its operations. I trust that I've answered your question, Mr. Kama.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lowe. I will ask any member of the panel, is there any further question that you would, I see a hand. Member Mackenzie, you may go, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Lowe, given your experience and your previous serving on this particular role, and the challenges that we still experience with alcohol harms, particularly in our province, how would you do things differently this time around? We understand the regulatory part of it. We understand the white paper. We understand the funding issues. I think you fully understand it. But how do you do things differently this time around to ensure that the harms reduction in our province as a board member would actually have an impact? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mackenzie. I think the authority needs to be more visible in terms of a leadership role that can be played in terms of the you know, addressing of the harms as a result of the alcohol abuse. So, and to fulfill that leadership role, I would also then promote a more active communication with the Department of Community Services, you know, so that there is apart from that department, also other key stakeholders, such as Department of Social Development, such as the Department of Education, so that there is a more common understanding of the concerns, well, the harm of alcohol abuse, but then also to create cohesion amongst key role players, so that there is a sort of a joint effort, and not necessarily, and not only an effort, you know, from a one-sided effort from the authority side. Communication, I would say, is crucial, and that is something that I would strongly promote. Not necessarily between the authority and its license holders, but on a broader basis to create, you know, understanding. And that also entails the industry. You know, some thoughts, some people might say that, you know, one needs to have a arm's length arrangement. I have a different view. You know, we are in this together, and if one can actually co-opt the industry, specifically from the funding perspective, I think one should consider that. Thank you.
Mr. Lowe, that brings us to the end of your interview. I will indicate that we are interviewing a number of candidates today. Thereafter, the committee will deliberate before we submit our recommended names to the MEC or to the provincial minister. Do you have any questions for us?
No, but if I may, Chair, just make a final comment.
Mm.
As a board member, what I experienced, and I think what I'm going to say now is something that the panel members should also take cognizance of. It's not a glamour job. It is hard work. Your board papers is anything from 350 to 400 pages. It's heavy reading. You need to have time on your hands. If you really want to make a meaningful impact and a contribution, you have to have time available. And I've experienced that people that are still in formal professions, that they battle. I'm a retired person. I'm still very healthy, and I have time to actually fulfill that role. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We highly appreciate you availing yourself again today. It is much appreciated, all on a Friday, Mr. Lowe. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members.
Please have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Members, thank you so much. We are now at 9:40 and we will promptly commence at 10:05 with our next candidate to be interviewed. So we'll have a comfort break, tea break, coffee break. But is there any question or anything that any member would want to flag before we take a break? Or are we good? Okay, everyone is.
I think we're good, Chair.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wasim Matthews and Siraj, I just want to double check. Are you going to put on the different screen that we'll be back shortly?
Yes, Chairperson. I've already informed Siraj and I'll just give him the cue now.
Thank you so much. And then members, if we are able to stay online in the background, that will be appreciated. Thank you. Like I've indicated, good morning once again, members. We are conducting the second part of our interview stage. And we are dealing with interviews for the Western Cape Liquor Authority's Governing Board. Mr. Morris, can I check if I can hear you? I am able to see you clearly, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure I'm audible.
Yes, you are indeed, sir. Mr. Morris, once again, thank you so much for availing yourself to be interviewed today. You would know the process in terms of members asking questions. You will have 2 minutes to answer a particular question. I will keep a timer my side. And once you see this particular signal,
noted, Chair.
It will mean that it is 1 minute and 50 seconds. And we will afford you an extra 10 seconds in order to conclude the sentence.
Noted. Thank you, Chair.
And Mr. Morris, it's always good seeing you. And we have a new composition to our committee. We have Advocate Deirdre Bartman.
Oh, yes.
Member Ricardo Mackenzie, who is joining us as new members, as well as Member Kama, who you are very familiar with.
Yes.
And our extremely capable procedural officer, Wasim Matthews, as well as IT support is online. This is the second stage of our interviews after this morning. We are interviewing a number of candidates for a vacancy on the board. Do you have any question before we start? Are you comfortable your side?
No, thank you, Chair. I understand the procedures and I'm comfortable and ready to start.
Mr. Morris, are you able to give us any introductory remarks, but also state why? Why are you applying, sir?
Chair, maybe just very quickly recap on my CV. I have a total of 36 years experience in public finance and management. Of those 36 years, 23 were at senior management level. My experience is augmented by a master's degree in business administration and finance from the University of Cape Town. I also have worked extensively within the field of liquor trade and the liquor industry, or let me say the Western Cape Liquor Board, as I've been for about 7 years. I was the lead person on the provincial strategy on alcohol harms reduction. I have extensive experience and links with the South African Police Services, Department of Justice, the City Law Enforcement, Correctional Services, and I've also worked with the community structures that exist within those fields, most noticeably the community police forums, the parole boards, and the various religious fraternities. As to the question as why, Chairperson, again, having retired and enjoying the retirement, I must say, I have the time available, and I do believe that there's still something to give back that I can contribute purposefully. And I would also like to have the opportunity from that side then to lead some of the harms reduction strategies, which I feel very strongly about, looking at the link between crime and alcohol abuse. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Morris, before I could put my hand up, you were perfect in time. I now have Member Deirdre Bartman.
Advocate, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much and welcome. My question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you would contribute to the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. It's nice to see that you're on this committee, given the challenges. Advocate, yeah, I think firstly, it's about efficiencies. Now, if I, time permitted, but if you look at, for instance, Section 63 of the current Act, which requires from the Liquor Authority to issue notices of renewal in October, and then they deal with the whole renewal process during November, December, January. Now, that's very inefficient because for a number of reasons. Firstly, it is the festive season, so your staff is on holiday and they have to spend a lot of unnecessary overtime. Secondly, it's the festive season, so the industry is extremely busy during that time. And then lastly, if there's any overcollection in revenue, you sit with the money in the third quarter of the financial year, which means you can do nothing with it, and it all goes back to Treasury. So I would, for instance, strongly advocate that Section 63 be amended so that, as with car vehicle licenses, you can actually have a renewal of the liquor licenses right through the year, instead of all of them being clustered together during the December festive season holiday period. Also, furthermore, small ones, if you look at, I think it's Section 46 of the Act, which allows the CEO to issue a fine for late renewal, but the Act prescribes that the fine must be 100%. There's no discretion given to the CEO. So often you find where somebody underpay by 10 Rand, but then they are given 100% fine instead of having I see the indication, Chair, instead of having it. So I think in summary, I think it's about the efficiencies, looking at the efficiencies that needs to be improved and the detail of it, because the devil is in the detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morris. We now have Member Ricardo McKenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. In your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board? I know that you've touched on it briefly, but if you can just expand on that, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Nice seeing you again, sir. I think the first one would be financial control. As you know, I have been very fortunate in being able to maintain a very high standard of good governance when I was the head of department, having been the first one in the country to achieve 10 consecutive clean audits. I'm very aware of the challenges facing the Liquor Board in getting a clean audit, and I'm quite confident that one would be able to do that. And again, looking at the fact that the Liquor Board, and it goes back to the question of Ms. Advocate Bartman as well, the Liquor Board is not self-sufficient. So, and it's all to do with the way that they collect their money, as I've explained earlier, the way that they spend it. So I think my biggest skills would be a thorough understanding of the public service, a thorough understanding of the Public Finance Management Act, understanding of the parliamentary process, including appearing before this committee, the annual reports that must be submitted, and so forth. And again, also my ability to work with people. I've had a very good relationship with all those involved, and it's based on respect, and I believe I'm able to do so. And with my qualifications, I think maybe also in the industry, I have a qualification that one can stand up in the industry and make your voice heard. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morris. We now have Mr. Masuli Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, Mr. Morris.
Morning, sir.
My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority Board?
Yeah, again, I think as in let's answer by the authority to issue liquor licenses is actually vested in the provincial government in terms of the constitution. It's an area which they have competency in. So this responsibility has, by law of the provincial government, been allocated to a third party called Western Cape Liquor Board. So therefore, the Western Cape Liquor Board's main responsibility is to maintain and run the liquor licensing environment according to the policy directives of the provincial government and of this committee. So I think that is the important part of their function. Of course, then furthermore, it's the issues of if we look at the contrast currently with licensed outlets, illegal outlets, especially in certain areas where zoning is an absolute barrier. Now, I think they need to find solutions to these problems. It's now been 17, 18 years, and that would be important that one finds sustainable and viable solutions for the challenges facing the inefficiencies of the current licensing environment. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Morris, as I've indicated earlier on, I will take a hand if there's any follow-up question. I see a hand that went up. It is Member Kama. You want to have a second bite at the cherry. Member Kama.
No, thanks, Chair. And I hope Mr. Morris won't feel as if he's here as the HOD. But I just have a clarity, Chair. I relate to what Mr. Morris was raising around the issue of the renewals of licensing and the challenge of it being in that period where it's busy in the industry itself. But what I want to understand now is what was it has not been done, and I think once thought about this and raised it. What would be the challenges now, or what are the challenges in implementing what we are talking about in terms of having it run the same way like how we do our renewals of your driving license and other licenses? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Kama. Again, sir, you need to look at the section 63 of the Act as it is currently existing. So section 63 of the Act prescribes the time frame in which the renewal of the licenses must take place. It, for instance, prescribes that the notice of renewal must be issued in November and that the renewals must happen in December. So a quick answer to your question is that this committee, sir, should be looking at reviewing Section 63 of the Western Cape Liquor Act 4 of 2008 as amended. So that's the quick question to your answer. Thank you, Chair. If I've answered that adequately.
Extremely adequately, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Morris, we can probably talk to you for days. However, in terms of consistency, that brings us towards the end of our interview today. We have 2 or 3 more candidates that we are interviewing. Thereafter, we will deliberate and submit our recommendations to the minister. But thank you so much. Any concluding remarks from your side?
Chairperson, no, just it's a Friday. I know that your time is very valuable, so thank you for affording me the opportunity and for considering my application. I hope that you find the right person for the position. Thank you, Chair, and to all the members of the committee, thank you kindly. It's nice to see you all again and to interact. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Your sign at the back says coffee, and I think that is making all of us want more coffee. But thank you so much. Please have a good day and weekend ahead.
Thank you kindly, Chair. Thank you, members.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, members. Our procedural officer will be in contact with the following candidate who should be logging in very soon. Members, I have checked with our procedural officer, and the candidate is in the process of logging in.
Chairperson?
Yes, Miss. Yes, Mr. Matthews.
I just spoke to the candidate. She's had a bit of trouble logging in. So let's just see how it goes now, because I resent the link to her.
No, thank you so much. Members as well as the public, as you would understand, with all technology, certain glitches might creep in. However, I trust that we are doing well in terms of our time, in terms of interviewing candidates, being able to clearly hear and listen to the candidate, as well as seeing them on the video. So we will proceed in the next few moments, as we will see the second last candidate that have availed themselves for the vacancy. Thank you. Ms. Patawa, I trust that you are well. Are you able to hear me and see me? And if I may request that you switch on your mic as well as your camera at this time.
Today am I?
Ms. Patawa.
Hello.
Hi. Ms.
Hello.
Patawa, on a Friday, you have made yourself available. We are highly appreciative. I just want to hear if I can hear you. I am able to see you clearly.
Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you, sir.
Perfect. We can also hear you clearly your side. My name is Regan Allen. I'm the chairperson for Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport for the committee in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. We are here today to interview a number of candidates, and you are one of them. I'm going to quickly explain the process moving forward, but I just want to make sure that you are comfortable.
Okay, no, I'm comfortable. I'm speaking from my mobile phone. I'm currently in Philippi, so there is no internet connection here, so I'm using my mobile device.
No, thank you so much. Ms. Patawa, we will ask you a set of questions.
Yes,
You
sir.
will have 2 minutes to answer a particular question. I will have a timer my side. And
Yes.
once we reach 1 minute and 50 seconds, then this will happen.
Okay.
Oh, why can't I raise my hand, Wasim? Oh, that will happen, Ms. Patalwa. So 1 minute and 50 seconds, I will raise my hand, and then we will afford you 10 seconds to conclude your sentence.
Okay.
I will introduce the members that are with me. It's a multi-party committee that has oversight over the Department of Community Safety, as well as the entity, the Western Cape Liquor Authority. So with me is Advocate Deirdre Bartman,
Okay.
Member Masuli Kama, as well as Member Ricardo McKenzie. So on that note, we will proceed, but I want to double check again that you are comfortable and that you are ready to go.
I'm comfortable. I'm ready to go. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm good to go.
No problem at all. We want to make this as comfortable as possible. We understand that many people in our province have a keen interest in the work of government and its entities, and we are always delighted when people make themselves available. So thank you for making yourself available. We will proceed, and I will ask you if there's any opening remarks from you, but can you also then tell us why you have applied?
Okay. I have applied because I'm affected by the business of the authority. Right. I'm a legal practitioner, but then the reason why I applied is because I'm interested in the work that it does. I just want to be in a strategic role whereby I contribute to the community, because what I've seen is when I got the call, I saw that it's under the Department of Community Safety, and of which I have a keen interest. And whilst researching the role, it also opened my eyes that they're not the authority is not only interested on making revenue, but it's also interested in the harm reduction of harm that is done by the alcohol. So it's not only revenue driven, because we're different from the other provinces whereby it's under economic development, but in this province it's under community safety. That's what interested me, because that's the type of an organization that I would like to be part of as a community member and as a layman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patella. We are doing well for time. I will now note Member Deirdre Bartman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Welcome. What do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies that you could contribute to the board? Thanks.
Okay. The current challenges is the legislation. The legislation is only the Enabling Act. It's only dealing with the what can I say? It's dealing with with enforcement and licensing. It doesn't deal with the harm that is caused by the alcohol. So now I see that the board, in one of its mission, it says it will lead and promote the role of the public to reduce the impact of alcohol-related harms. So in the mission of the authority, it deals with the harms. That's what interests me most, and I also, as a board member, I will contribute into seeing the the paper, the strategic paper, I want to see it into being legislated. I'm quite nervous. I can't hear myself. Ms. Bartman, Honorable Bartman.
Hi, yes, thank you so much. The next member is going to take the next question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Ms. Patelwa. My name is Ricardo Mackenzie. In your experience, what would you be bringing to the board? In your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. As I've said earlier, I am a legal practitioner practicing in the Western Cape, and I've also had a brief stint as an acting magistrate in one of the less fortunate communities where alcohol abuse is rife. So as a board member, I'll bring the wealth of experience with having been directly involved in those communities. And as a magistrate, I was a magistrate in the harassment court, and most of the matters that I had were matters that were aggravated by alcohol, the misuse of alcohol. So at least I have an idea, and I've also had first-hand experience as to what alcohol abuse can do to our communities. And then as a legal practitioner, the wealth of experience that I bring to this board is I have served in the former Cape Law Society, now it's the Legal Practice Council. So I have been involved in a strategic role whereby we governed the attorney's profession, the entry into the profession, and also the enforcement of the Attorneys Act and the regulations. So I have been in that role, albeit it was the last council that I was involved in. That is the only strategic role that I've held in my very short life. And I think with that, I bring a wealth of experience because I've been involved in a strategic role before. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patelwa. We now have member Masuli Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority governing board?
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, sir. I was just writing down my question so that I don't break it up. Okay, a well-functioning board, it would have, I'll break down your question into two. The board is governed by an act. So a well-functioning board will be a board with, amongst other things, with a clean with a clean audit, with a clean audit, with functions within the law, and which seeks to implement the law in all its functioning. So it must not function outside the law, but it must function within the auspices of the law, or that is the enabling act, that is the Provincial Act and the National Act. So I think that will be the quality of a functioning board. And with this board, whilst I was sitting and researching, I saw that in the past 3 years, they've had a very clean audit report. What else can I say? I don't want to say much. I'm still as nervous as ever. I'm sorry, Ms. Suli. I hope I've answered your question.
Ms. Patelwa, we are nearing the end, and thank you so much. I will take a hand from a member should there be any additional question, and I see member Ricardo Mackenzie.
Yes,
thank you very much, Ms. Patelwa. I wanted to find out from you, given your experience as a magistrate and seeing the damages of, as you say, the harassment around alcohol abuse, as a board member, how would you practically assist in developing a strategy to deal with some of these issues in the industry? Thank you.
Okay. Practically, it's not only nice to have these things on paper. Like as a nation, we have these beautiful laws, but we don't implement them. So it's important to implement it's important to implement these laws, like the harm reduction strategy of the board. It needs to see itself into legislation. So we have, as a board member, I'll see to it that we work towards having it legislated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patalwa. We are nearing, like I've indicated, the end, and I'm glad that you were comfortable, that you have water. We need coffee outside, but I want to ask, is there anything else that you want to bring to our attention in closing remarks?
Okay. In closing, I was going to thank you for inviting me to this interview. Thank you for the opportunity to listen to me, and also to like the time that you've given me to express myself. Even though I was very nervous, but I do believe that I have said what I wanted to say, and thank you so much. And I also wanted to ask another question further is the roles that you seek to fill, how soon do you want to fill the roles?
As a committee, we will urgently, directly after our meeting today, deliberate, and we will compile our report and make it as soon as possible so that we can inform the ministry of our decision. We are definitely wanting to do it as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Please keep well. It's Friday. Have a good weekend and a good day ahead as well.
Thank you so much. Your questions were very difficult. Thank you so much.
It's member Ricardo Mackenzie. Don't worry.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patalwa.
Bye.
Mr. Matthews, it's now 10:42. I just want to double check. I saw someone pop up earlier on, so I'm assuming that, oh, there we go again. So we are good to go. Good morning.
Hello. Yes, I'm logged in.
You are logged in, sir. I just want to hear your voice again, but I can see you clearly as well. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, I'm delighted. Members, we are able to see Mr. Stander as well as hear his voice clearly. My name, Mr. Stander, is Regan Allen, and I'm the chairperson for Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sport. In Community Safety, we have oversight over the department as well as its entities, and in this case, the Western Cape Liquor Authority's governing board. I trust that you are comfortable and that you feel welcomed. We are a multi-party committee. So with me, I have Advocate Deirdre Bartman, Member Ricardo Mackenzie, as well as Member Masuli Kama. And you have engaged Mr. Wasim Matthews, our procedural officer. We also have IT support with us today. On that note, I will briefly outline the process that we will undertake in terms of the questions. Members will be asking different questions. You will have 2 minutes to answer a particular question. Once my timer says that you are reaching 1 minute and 50 seconds, this will happen, which will indicate that you have 10 seconds to conclude your sentence once I raise my hand on the virtual platform. There should be an opportunity for a follow-up question at the end from one of the members, and the first hand that I see from a member, I will take that particular question. Do you have any questions before we start?
No, thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, members. Mr. Stander, we are ready to go.
You can call me Ink. You can call me Ink.
Sorry, I couldn't.
You can call me Henk.
Henk, thank you so much. Henk, on a opening remarks from you, but also why have you put your hand up? Why have you accepted nomination to be a part of the governing board?
Right, I want to do something, and all my life I was in the liquor trade. So that's why I want to do something more for the people in the liquor trade and all the people around. Yes, I must be busy. That's the main part of my life. Hello?
I can hear you, sir. Thank you so much. We are doing then extremely well for time. Like I've indicated, you have 2 minutes per question, but thank you so much. Next up will be Deirdre Bartman, member Deirdre Bartman.
Thank you so much and welcome. My question is, what do you think are the major challenges of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, and what are the current efficiencies you would contribute to the board? Thank you.
Well, the main thing is to do it as easy as possible for all the license holders to do that they can do it with pleasure with us, deal with us with pleasure, and that they can, if they need us, we can help them. That's, yeah.
Thank you so much. We now have member Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Stander. In your view, in your particular view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board?
I didn't hear that question again, please.
I do apologize for that. In your view, what expertise would you be bringing to the board?
Well, all my life I'm in the liquor trade, and I serve the community a lot. So I know that I can help people to get the liquor licenses and to make the license easier to become one, and not expensive at all, but to the social media to help them reduce the social economic part, affected everything. Yeah. That's develop a new entrance of the liquor trade, you know. And I can assist them with a lot of figures. I'm a safer man. Nou kan ek nie lekker die woord. My expert is figures to work out accountants and things like that. Hello?
Baie dankie. Thank you so much. We now have member Masuli Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, Mr. Stander.
Good morning.
My question would be, what would you consider to be the main responsibilities of a well-functioning Western Cape Liquor Authority governing board?
That they've been organized and that's on time, everything. For example, if the liquor stores must stop 5 o'clock, then mustn't any people come in at 5 o'clock, or the Sabines, they trade. That's a lot of problems that I had with the Sabines trading at selling liquor at 12 o'clock at night and things like that, and that must be stopped, you know. If there's a liquor board, they must stop other tradings. For example, the liquor stores is open from 8 till 8, and from there on, the Sabines running their own liquor stores.
Thank you so much. We now have an opportunity. If there's any follow-up question from any particular member, do I see a hand going up? Mr. Henk, you have represented yourself. Thank you so much. There's no further follow-ups. So I trust that you are well. But is there any question or closing remarks from your side?
Well, the main thing, I'm positive that I can help the board positive doing onwards. You know, they're doing quite good job, but I can help them to do some more because of my experience of the trade. That's what I want to do, to help people. And that's my whole life, is to help people. And especially for the small liquor stores, you know, that they can still open. The man haven't got enough money to open a big store, so he can open a small one and still give work for three people and look after his wife and kids and things like that. Because the big traders like Checkers, Spar and big run over all the small shops, you know. And it's a bit of hard service, but sad to hear that. You can see what happened there, you know. And so that's why I can help with that. And my knowledge with the liquor trade is very good. I'm a bit nervous. I'm not used to.
No problem.
All right.
Mr. Henk, we wanted to make this as comfortable as possible, because as a committee, we value each and every nominee, knowing that people have put their hand up in order to serve, in order to help. So it is highly appreciated that you've taken time out of your Friday morning to engage us, to speak to us, and to answer questions. So we thank you very much, and we wish you all of the best for the rest of the day, as well as this weekend ahead. The committee will be deliberating, as well as making our recommendations to the minister. But thank you so much.
So when would you say yes or no for me?
We are hoping to conclude our business today, so that we can make that submission directly to the minister and urge the minister to take swift action, because we would want to see this vacancy being filled on the governing board.
All right.
So as soon as possible, sir.
Enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for your time, everything. Right.
Hetzelfde vir u. Lekker dag.
Dankie, geniet dit. Ja, jammer dat ek so 'n bietjie op my senuwees is.
Ja,
maar ek wil net sê, ek is alles wat ek doen ek met oorgretigheid, en ek hou van 'n wen. Ek is 'n wenman.
Nee, baie dankie dat u vir u beskikbaar gemaak het. Ons waardeer dit.
Geniet dit. Dankie.
Okay dan. Totsiens. Bye. You are more than welcome to leave the meeting now. The rooi button. Members, I am going to triple check with our procedural officer that we have interviewed all the nominees for the Western Cape Liquor Authority's Governing Board. I have indicated earlier on that we have received a withdrawal from one particular nominee. Mr. Matthews, you are able to confirm that we have concluded the interview stage.
Yes, Chairperson. It's now up to the committee to do the scoring and decide on the way forward. I've prepared a draft report which the committee can amend. It's just based on the previous experience. So when we get to that stage, I will flight it and the members can amend as needed.
Thank you so much. Members, on that note, residents of the Western Cape, stakeholders that are tuned in terms of Rule 72, we will now close the meeting to conclude our deliberations, and directly thereafter, the meeting will be open to confirm that we have compiled or approved our report, and then we will submit it duly to the ministry. Mr. Siraj, are you able to take action your side? It has been consistent precedent in this regard. Mr. Siraj? Members, and as the meeting is potentially still open, we are discussing the nominees, we are doing the ranking, and for that reason, the Rule 72 is applied where we will be going in camera. I am trusting that our IT support
Good morning,
will
Chair
be
Candace.
able.
I'm closing the meeting now.
He is in the process. He'll give us the go-ahead, Chair.
Members on the committee,
Sorry, Chair, it's open. Sorry to interrupt.
Good morning again, members. We have held in-camera discussions based on our interviews and our deliberations on our committee meeting for today, which handled with the Western Cape Liquor Authorities Governing Board. We want to thank personally each and every candidate that have made themselves available. It is highly, highly appreciated. As a committee, we have deliberated and we will duly adopt the following report by noting that we are in the process of submitting our recommendations to the office of the MEC or the provincial minister. On that note, I also want to thank each and every member for attending and for participating so diligently. So members, the report before us today to be adopted, I trust that the report has been read. Do I get any member that is moving that the committee resolves to submit its recommendations for the appointment of the governing board? I see member Bartman and then member Kama.
Chair, move to adopt.
Member Kama.
Chair, I second the adoption.
Member Mackenzie.
We can
triple it. So we can triple it. Thank you so much, members. I consider this report now in terms of our rules to be duly adopted, and we will provide the MEC with our recommendations. Again, thank you so much. It's Friday, it's 11:30. Weer eens baie dankie. Mary Ann, Mr. Ben Daza, thank you for your attendance here as well. Wasim, as always, thank you so much. And may I say, to member Mackenzie and member Bartman, we have seen how we are able to consistently work together as a multi-party committee, and I do appreciate that we are able to see how we jointly work. So baie dankie. As we as a committee will continue to forge ahead. We have member Ferland Christians, and I've indicated that he have tendered an apology, and we have member Kama, who is a stalwart on this particular committee. So weer eens baie dankie en lekker dag verder. Wasim?
Okay, person.
We can adjourn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.